Battleship Venerable Prizat System Immortus Territory. Admiral Natalian Wonder stroked his thick black mustache as he sat on the captain's chair, watching as his last forces returned to their shuttles, ready for departure. The remnants of the vast garrison base would be left behind, ruined, but not completely destroyed. They'd be left for House Immortus and its vassals to recover and rebuild. With a sigh, the man, well into his 70s, but still looking like he was in his 40s, turned to his XO, the commander of the communications division. "Have the infantrymen been gathered?" he asked. The relatively younger man nodded. "Yes, Admiral. Several dozens have chosen to pledge themselves to his Lord Regent. The rest remain in wait. Per your orders, once we depart, we'll signal the planet's command to begin rescue and transport operations. Are these your standing orders still?" asked Commander Oleander Sinter. "They stand," Natalian affirmed. "Has she returned?" "She has." "Do you wish her summoned, Admiral?" Oleander asked. "No need. Take command, Oleander. Confine her leadership to her quarters." "I'll debrief her personally," he said as he stood up, adjusting his uniform and ensuring the pin depicting the Drora sigil was visible and ever-present for all to see, pressed against his neck. "As you command, Admiral," replied Oleander as he moved to replace Natalian on the captain's chair. "It has been done. Her ladyship will be waiting for your arrival, sir." Natalian nodded once, before making his way out of the command bridge, receiving salutes and polite bows as he walked from officers, nobles, and commoners alike. 4 ROSF took their positions behind him, acting as his escort the moment he left the bridge. As he traveled the magnificently polished and decorated walls of the battleship entrusted to him by his lordship, Duke Cornelius Draymore, the main thoughts crossing his mind, other than gratefulness, were how utterly he hoped that the lesson the Lord Regent wished to send to his sister, Duchess Emerald, had been learned. The initial incursions into Immortus territory proved to be exactly what his Lord Regent predicted. Their in-system patrols were ready and active, but unable to withstand an overwhelming strike force. There had been a few combats, nothing more than skirmishes, and he'd only lost one overly ambitious B-class black ship frigate. The following assaults on stations and smaller garrisons followed the same pattern. Destroy supporting and defensive vessels alongside satellites and other stationary defensive measures. Commence harassing actions. Overwhelm the enemy. Strike with a frontal assault. Kill all those whose veins carried noble blood and leave after securing victory. No territory was to be claimed and only limited plunder would be taken. At first, he wondered why the commoners were extended such vast mercy, but Marquis Hadrian Tigan's suggestion shone true. By mainly focusing on their noble leaders, many commoners simply surrendered, and a few even turned on their betters for their selfish desire to live. But the real impact came after that. Survivors would spread word and dissent would set in their homes. Already, local networks were abuzz with growing protests and growing dissatisfaction aimed at their duchess, further weakening House Immortus and forcing more personnel and resources into recovering from the damage inflicted and quelling their subjects. No true resistance had been found yet, but on the few occasions when a heavier hand was needed, he'd unleashed these Butcher of Khasidar. He'd heard rumors, of course, but once he saw her in action the first time, he understood why his Lord Regent kept such a tight leash on his daughter. Yet, despite the carnage she was able to unleash on her own, she never made demands during strategic meetings. In fact, she never spoke, never gave her opinion on tactics used or the approach to be taken. And when orders were given, she merely obeyed without question. Early on he learned that such blind obedience was a double-edged sword. She never questioned her orders, but no matter how specific her limitations were set, she would always break them in favor of completing her mission. Nothing else mattered. And he wasn't stupid enough to believe that she obeyed him because he was her superior. No, she obeyed him because her father ordered her to respect and obey his orders whilst acting as his representative. Several minutes later, he arrived at her private quarters. "Wait here," he ordered, and his escorts saluted. With a quick connection to the ship's network, the door opened. He entered, and the door closed behind him. It was the first time he had seen her quarters in person, and he was surprised by how austere they were. Aside from her bed, a rack for her armor, some weapons mounted next to the armor rack, a small ornate desk with an open book and some sort of human-shaped statuette resting on top of it, 2 small potted plants. Near her bed, a private training area, and a screen mounted to the wall in front of a single-person couch. It left much to be desired. He found Veronica Draymore wearing a sports bra and shorts with her typical braid undone, letting her shoulder-length hair flow freely as she delivered quick strikes at the air itself. Despite the distance, he could hear the whistles her punches created. Her skin glistened with sweat, her defined muscles contracting and relaxing with each movement. As he approached, she didn't deem him worthy enough to stop her exercising. He frowned but said nothing about it. A minute passed with her ignoring him. Finally figuring out she wouldn't stop, Natalian spoke. "Care to explain yourself?" he said, offering no respect in return. "For what reason?" She countered without missing a beat. Natalian crossed his arms. "You know what I'm referring to, Lady Veronica? The slaughter you carried." "What slaughter?" she asked, genuinely confused. "I merely eliminated traitors and seditious idiots." "They weren't traitors, Natalia." Encountered, his frown becoming more pronounced. "Their only fault was to obey their ancient duties to support and follow their patrons." Veronica stopped with a powerful punch that splashed several sweat droplets onto the ground. Then she turned to him, her green peridot eyes finding his vibrant white ones. "They went against the wishes and will of my Lord Father, their Lord Regent. Their loyalty belongs to him over that of the unworthy Duchess Sylvia Emerald. So the logical decision was to slaughter them all mercilessly," Natalia encountered. "My Lord Father's orders were clear to humble my traitorous aunt by the blood of her vassals and those who bent the knee to her. Have I failed in that task?" Veronica replied matter-of-factly. Natalian felt his right eye twitch in annoyance. His situation was a precarious one. Despite being her superior, she was his lord's daughter, and he owed her respect. He couldn't punish her overreaching actions, less so when she, by sheer technicality, did as he ordered. "No, you haven't," he admitted with finality. He expected her to be smug about it, a stinging remark that she was superior to him, maybe an offhanded insult. Anything, yet none came. She remained as calm and firm as ever. That was worse than receiving any reaction at all. "However, the way you've carried your orders was devoid of honor or glory, Lady Veronica." He pressed on. She raised an eyebrow. "Were not your orders to hunt down and eliminate their top commanding officers? Prevent them from overloading the garrison's plasma reactor and eliminate their leader?" The Admiral bit his tongue before answering. "They were." She tilted her head slightly. "Yet you're here to deliver unfounded judgment. Why?" "You slaughtered them all?" Natalian said, pointing a finger at her while his eyes locked with hers in competition. "The infantrymen, the commoners, noble lives were forfeited." "This is true." "But the commoners, you butchered them without mercy. Not a single time did you offer them the opportunity to surrender. I never heard a plea for mercy or a gesture of surrender. Review my suit's footage." "You'll see I speak no lies," Veronica replied dryly. Natalian took a step forward. "Because you never even gave them the chance to do so. You charged forth, actively targeting them first, as if they could ever pose a threat against you. You could have eliminated their leaders, then moved on, leaving them to be captured and offer their surrender to our troops following you. I could have done that unnecessarily, risking the lives of my father's loyal troops by showing worthless mercy upon traitors that never threw their weapons down. Honor and glory are worthless compared to bringing my father ultimate victory," she rebuked, putting her hands on her hips. "I chose to eliminate any chance of treachery quickly and swiftly. It cost me no more than a few seconds." Natalian's frown softened as he saw no egocentric light in her eyes, no condescending tone in her voice, and not a single display of gloating in her logic. What was almost worse was that there was no bloodlust either. He'd dealt with all manner of personalities during his long career. From self-serving glory hunters, cowards who put their lives first over everything else, to dutiful, loyal officers and bloodlust-ridden beasts seeking battle, spitting out excuses in the name of killing their enemies. He glimpsed no lies in her words, no empathy, no satisfaction, not even the slightest sense of guilt, masked sadism, or doubt. She was cold and direct. In that moment, he saw a creature that carried out its duty without fear or desire to claim personal glory. He broke first, ending their untold competition. Closing his eyes for a moment, he let out his held breath slowly. Opening his white eyes, he ran a hand through his short-trimmed black hair before continuing. "Then how do you explain the torture you inflicted upon Major Pascal Wonder? What was the point of it?" For the first time since his arrival, Veronica's expression changed significantly. Her lips curled into a soft smile that could be confused as charming in any other circumstance. I gave that man the means to see the error of his ways. In glorious pain, he saw his mistakes and found redemption. My Lord Father's mercy fell upon him before I claimed his head with utmost dignity, she explained proudly. He was beyond repentance, but not beyond forgiveness. I'm sure he died in gratitude for the chance I bestowed upon him. Admiral Natalia nearly took a step back upon hearing her answer, but managed to stand firm, his anger and annoyance transforming into disgust and a chilly, weary look toward the young, fetching woman in front of him. Defeated, he let out a deep sigh. He wasn't going to bother asking her about the heads safely secured in a freezing storage unit. That much he understood from the beginning. When she declared she'd claimed 200 noble heads, she wasn't trying to be humorous. Can she even understand what a joke is? He pushed the unnecessary question from his mind. Pain is a useful tool to set an example and enforce order, but it should never be used the way you did, Lady Veronica, he protested. Our methods and views differ, Admiral, but results cannot be denied. Much like lashing a transgressor to ensure the lesson is never forgotten, the pain I offer only exists to set those who may be set straight. See with your own eyes if my words lack gravitas, Veronica replied before clapping her hands twice. A door perfectly camouflaged next to Veronica's bed opened, revealing a smaller room, likely the quarters for a maid or a servant. That never when he remembered that Veronica had boarded the venerable prize with a single maid marked in the records, but he had never seen said maid in the flesh. The maid who walked out of the hidden room was wearing a fine form-fitting maid uniform in the colors of House Draymore, green, gold, and in some trims purple, replacing the more traditional black and white. The dress ended just below her knees, displaying just a few centimeters of ebony skin before the boots wrapped the rest of her legs and feet. The uniform didn't hide the maid's enviable figure, but was simultaneously modest in design. Her long obsidian hair was pulled back into a chignon adorned with a small green bow, and her face was hidden behind a smooth, featureless white mask. The unknown maid crossed half the distance, separating them before his eyes widened, and this time he wasn't able to suppress himself from taking a step back as he recognized who the maid was. "What have you done to her?" he asked, appalled. Veronica's smile widened slightly as her personal maid came to a halt, close enough to carry out any order given to her immediately, but giving a respectful distance between her and her master. The blonde woman then walked over to her maid, placing a hand on her shoulder as she traced a finger across her collarbone, up her nape, and then the edges of her mask. I've done nothing more than give the old Felicity the chance to redeem herself for her grave mistakes. Felicity is no more. Her insolence is forgiven. Now she may serve my Lord Father again. She's not a sinner anymore, yet she has her uses. She took a step back. Present yourself. Showcasing an immaculate poise and form. Felicity bowed before the Admiral in deference. Greeting, my lord. My name is Zeta, maid to my lady Veronica Dra and loyal servant of his Lord Regent, Duke Cornelius Draymore. How may I be of service, my lord? The wide-eyed man opened his mouth, but words failed him. He thought he'd seen everything in his life. He was sadly mistaken. That much was clear. Overcoming his momentary shock, he regained his stance. Marvelous result, is it not? Veronica asked, full of pride. Then it vanished, returning to her stoic expression. Do you have more points that need clarification, Admiral? Natalian frowned slightly, but then shook his head slightly. That will be all. Whilst your methods were objectionable, you acted with prudence, efficiency, and to the best of your abilities, he said. Though on that last part, he wanted to say brutality. Your mission was completed, saving countless lives and minimizing our casualties. Well done. His Lord Regent will know of your deeds, he promised. Instantly, Veronica's eyes sparkled with delight and joy. That was it. That was the reward she sought. I am happy to see the woman who brought shame upon House Vunder and harm to my grandnephew Javier receive deserved justice, he said carefully. Yet no matter how much he loathed the woman before, he felt nothing but pity for her now. I won't take more of your time, Lady Veronica. Veronica gave him a curt nod, the first show of respect she displayed toward him, and likely the most he was going to receive. As he moved to the exit out of the edge of his vision, he saw the disgraced Felicity Sinter, now renamed Zeta, return to her hidden chambers while Veronica walked to her desk. She dropped to a knee, bowing her head before the small statuette. The door opened and he exited her quarters. The tension on his shoulders banished the moment the door closed behind him. Still dignified and showing no outward changes, he started to make his way back to the bridge. Not 20 steps later, he received a request from Yahir Ishtal, his commander of the intelligence division. He accepted it, surprised to find out it was not only private but also encrypted. "What is it, Yahir?" "I offer my sincerest apologies for sending this request so abruptly, Admiral. I would have done so in person, but I was informed that you were preoccupied with Lady Veronica. I didn't want to intrude." Yahir answered, "I understand. You were prudent, Yahir. You have my gratitude. Now, what is the matter?" Natalian inquired. "We've received an official report directly from Central Command. Numerous agents, scattered ships, and civilian chatter observations confirm that dozens upon dozens of ships of non-Principality standard design have been sighted across Vigilia, Emerald, and Shybloom territories. Admiral, these are no mere audacious merchants or pirates coming from other nations. At least 3 well-known small mercenary companies near Imperium territory have been verified and detected flying side by side with Emerald-aligned vessels," informed Yahir. Admiral Natalian hummed deeply, stroking his mustache as he walked. "What designs have been confirmed?" "Predominantly Admiral Imperium standard designs. Several Tilgor and Zarma designs have also been identified, and at least another dozen with heavy signs of modifications. We've not detected any Albion Federation or Chinshu commonality ships so far, Admiral. Also, no ship class larger than a heavy destroyer has been identified." "But it is too early to be certain," replied Yahir. "So Duchess Sylvia intends to supplement her lackluster void forces with mercenaries to gain time?" he asked rhetorically before a chuckle escaped his throat. "We will deal with her and her mercenaries at another date. I must first contact his Lord Regent." "Well done, Commander Yahir," he said before cutting their link. With a deep hum rumbling in his chest, Natalian sincerely hoped that the lesson his lordship wished to impart had been achieved, for he had no desire to unleash the butcher again anytime soon. Tutton System, no Navio Clara's quarters. "Ships of non-Principality design?" Clara asked as she stared at the holographic form of her brother. "Aunt Sylvia has resorted to hiring mercenaries from other nations," she concluded as she crossed her arms. The prince nodded. "My advisors and our Central Command leaders have agreed that she's trying to boost her void naval forces in the short term and push back against Duke Draymore forces. Admiral Vashikati Reed and Rear Admiral Moreton Bant believe she'll try to engage in counter-assaults. They won't be as numerous or as well coordinated as our forces for the most part, but they won't act within our established doctrines. That will give them an edge. And there is a high probability that each of their ships will count for 2 or 3 of equivalent class." He paused for a moment to cross his arms. "Fleet Admiral Casalto Linter and Damien are of the opinion that she used them to defend and stall Draymore forces, giving her and Alexander time to gather more ships and make a solid push of claim." Clara grimaced, openly rubbing her temples in frustration. "Brother dearest, be honest with me. Have we returned to square one?" To her surprise, her brother shook his head as a weary, tired sigh escaped his lips. "If it were so simple, I would be elated." "No, sister dearest, it is much worse than that." The great houses watching in silence are growing restless. Every potential prediction of fealty and support has been destroyed. Lukács Ishtal predicts that House Shybloom and House Colada may soon declare their support for Alexander to claim and position Duchess Emerald as Lord Regent. House Palomides, House Valvor, and House Antuya's previous potion leaning on Duke Draw's claim have faltered. Yet House Etchbank is now likely to declare their support for our uncle's claim as Lord Regent. Clara let out a little laugh. "I implore you, brother, dearest, cease your relentless assault of dreadful exacerbation. I can only withstand so much." "Then withstand you shall," the prince rebuked. "There were indications that House Tempest and House Mirald might declare their support for my claim. Thanks to our dear Aunt Sylvia and Alexander, their potential support is now uncertain. The other neutral houses remain undecided, and Duke Ionati is, as expected, silent. Oh, brother, dearest, you truly are the worst when it comes to bearing gifts." The blonde princess joked, her lips curling into a small, playful smile, which caused the prince to smirk in return. "Allow me to share what Milcades was able to extract from Commodore Ager Ken. He didn't lie when he said he knew nothing. Not directly. But what he did know was enough for Redford to conclude that House Ken is preparing to launch a significant assault, most likely against one of our incursion fleets. The prince hummed and tapped a finger against his upper arm. It is likely that Andrew Ken is behind this gathering of forces. If this is the case, then I expect Fleet Admiral Andarian Emirante, Admiral Gentesco Palamites, or Fleet Admiral Cornelius Tegan to be in command of any potential counter-assault. The question is, where are they mustering their fleet? I wish I could provide such an answer, brother dearest. Alas, I cannot, replied Clara, sharing her brother's worry. You already do too much for me, Clara. I know it is unfair of me to put so much responsibility upon your shoulders, but I trust no other as much as I trust you to carry this burden. Stay safe, Clara. It was good to see you again, Cynthia. The red-armored woman gave him a soft smile and a curt nod. Give Redford Milcates and Wyatt my best regards, the prince said, relaxing into his seat. Think nothing of it, brother dearest. It is a burden I've chosen to carry, too. Please remain safe and mind your health, she replied a moment before the connection ended. The QEC returned to its housing as Clara stood up, feeling as if her feet were made out of solid iron. Turning to Cynthia, she smiled. Have our new guests found comfort in their luxury quarters? Cynthia gave her a devilish smirk. They have, my princess. Inora Khan and Denko Kasten will be overjoyed to see their kin. I'm certain, at least they saw reason and surrendered without a fight, Clara said, relieved. Are we ready to commence our departure from the system? Cynthia nodded. We are. Our next objective, Clement Cast, is on the, she said, pausing as her eyes flickered briefly. Clara, the old man wants to tell you something in person. He's already making his way here. He tells me he's received a priority message from Uriel Hulk. Uriel? Clara asked, surprised. Yet a moment later, she knew something wasn't quite right. If her uncle wanted to pass along a mere message, he could simply do so himself through the network. I'll eagerly wait for him, she said as she pushed back the desire to contact him herself. Not knowing something within her scope was something she detested more than anything. But as always, she contained herself. Only a few minutes of silent wait passed before the doors opened, revealing the gay-haired man. Immediately after she could read his uncertainty, worry, bafflement, and suspicion at the forefront of his mind. Uncle, what's wrong? My apologies, Clara, but I believe you must hear this yourself, Redford said, and his eyes flickered. The screen came to life a second later, showing the gruff man with long black hair sitting not in his office, but in what appeared to be a communications chamber. Ah, Princess, good to see you again, he said, offering a sincere yet playful smile. Likewise, my dear Uriel. However, given the nature of this outreach, am I right to assume that you've got something of considerable importance to contact me? She asked sternly and directly, as she wasn't in the mood to be too playful. Uriel's smile dropped, his expression becoming more serious. Well, it depends, my princess. Woodshaft lacks proper comm chambers that connect with the main principality's network, but this fancy battlecruiser does have a lounge. Haven't been able to get it out though, he chuckled. Stop dancing around the subject, hoax. Tell her, Redford pressed, eyes narrowed. Right, time for business. Uriel took a deep breath, then locked gazes with the violeted woman. Not too long ago, I received a visit from a non-standard principality ship. A Corvette-class ship, to be precise, armed, and fitted to the damn teeth. Its captain, Culper, wanted information on the current political climate, and more importantly, anyone interested in Volantis, a Norut colony world in Jamor territory. Volantis, she muttered, sharing a quick, serious glance with Cynthia. Then she turned her attention back to Uriel. What did this Culper plan to do in Volantis? All he was willing to disclose was that he had private dealings there. At the very least, I am certain to say that he isn't on the trader's payroll. A dangerous man like him doesn't owe his loyalty, but to himself, his motives, and credits, Uriel said. And you know this how? Cynthia asked firmly. In exchange for information on Ken and other trader movements near Volantis, we worked together in a small escort duty, Uriel offered reluctantly. Clara narrowed her eyes. Something didn't go as planned, I assume. Aside from the fact that a group of pirates tried to pull a jump on him and the freighter he was protecting, and he guided them to some unknown jump point. I know nothing else, he said, his voice carrying a hefty weight. This is why I requested Lord Callan to allow me the chance to deliver what I'm about to say directly. Princess, he closed his eyes and inhaled through his nostrils, securing his nerves. I have no more information to give you. No records of the scans I took of his ship. No footage, no security recordings, no registered timelines, nothing. Cynthia took a step forward with a glare that promised death. She stopped when Clara raised a hand and retook her position. "My dear Uriel, explain," the princess ordered in a sweet voice laced with venom. "Truth be told, princess, I don't have the faintest idea what happened. I had recordings of Culper and his companion walking around Woodshaft, their docking logs, and so much more. But now they are gone. My technicians can't find anything. The curious thing is that any information on them is gone. Only that they didn't touch anything else. The best theory I have is that the bastard planted a ghost AI during his visit. Then it activated after a set amount of time after his departure, likely after I gave him the information he was looking for." He made a dramatic motion with both hands, simulating an explosion. "All data simply vanished, gone, erased, as if it was never there. I didn't know until after I tried to access the data a few hours ago." Placing the back of her left index finger over her lips, Clara's mind processed what she'd learned and constructed the most likely reasons and potential motives of this Culper. If that was even a real name and not merely an alias. It only took her a few seconds to reach a conclusion, and she didn't like it at all. Turning her gaze to Uriel, she said, "Sincerely, I thank you for your forewarning, Uriel Hoax. I'll ensure you'll be properly compensated," Uriel chuckled. "I'll accept any reward you deem fit, princess. I don't have enough moral standing to deny easy credits, nor am I stupid enough to argue against receiving a gift from a royal. Just know that earning a reward was not part of the reason why I wanted to tell you about that bastard Culper. The disappearance of the data is what, shall we say, motivated me to give you and the Woodshaft ace a heads up, princess. I recall he mentioned he was from Volantis." "Indeed so, Uriel. Again, I thank you for your contributions and aid," she said, and Uriel bowed his head politely. The connection ended a moment after. A cold silence stretched for what felt like an age until Cynthia cleared her throat, shattering it. "We should tell Wyatt," declared the blue-haired woman. "Tell him what exactly?" Redford countered, frowning. "That an unknown vessel of non-principality design with an interest in trader movements near his home world? That we suspect his family is in danger? For all we know, this mysterious Culper could be a mere mercenary under Emerald contract and working with House Bailey forces. Shall we make a move on a mere assumption that could prove to be nothing at all?" He shook his head. "By telling him something that not even we are certain about will cause him to lose focus on everything he's doing. He's made great progress with the composters and Maximilian's data. He must remain focused on his objectives. Disturbing his concentration for mere speculations is a fool's errand that could cost us untold benefits with his methods and approach to battle and difficult situations." "And if his family is in danger," old man, Cynthia countered, turning to him, her insides churning angrily. "You are aware of how much he values them. He loves them with all his might. If they are harmed or worse due to our inaction, who do you think he'll blame? He could lose him forever if that happens. And I don't want to keep this from him. He's already done much for us. Or does honor not demand of us to repay him in kind?" Redford put a hand over her shoulder, his expression softening. "I know how you feel, Cynthia. Truly I do, more than anyone, that wretched gut feeling coursing through your body. But until we know for certain that his family is in danger, we will limit ourselves to keeping our eyes and ears open at all times. We can do more. This is true, but our mission takes priority over anything else." Cynthia exhaled through her nose before gently squeezing the hand of the older man. Then she turned to Clara. "What is your command, my princess?" Clara, who had listened in silence, stood up from her seat. "We will follow Redford's advice. Fundamentally, I do not agree with keeping this from Wyatt, but it must be done. My brother dispatched an agent to Volantis days ago. If his family is truly in danger, we will know and move accordingly. We won't allow harm to befall his family. We lack a communications lounge with QEC capabilities, and I am in possession of the only one linked directly to my brother. Whatever happens, he will let me know first. Let us hope that no odious eyes are set upon them." Cynthia and Redford closed their eyes and bowed their heads slightly. "As my princess commands," they said simultaneously. Then Redford shot up, surprising both women. A second later, a deep hate-filled frown marred his expression. "Pirates. A pirate fleet led by the infamous pirate lord Ezit Ravenamadante has arrived at the Fanher system, a neighboring system. The planet Rank, a large colony world, won't be able to repel them without reinforcements," the grayed man said. Clara's eyes narrowed. new machinations and possibilities already forming in her mind.